everyone, and welcome to episode number 2 of the Progressive Queens. I am joined by my panelists, Mickey, Talisha, and Kat. I didn't call you Catherine. And we're going to be talking about a couple of subjects today. And I know I got emailed something last night, so we'll try to squeeze it in. So I hope you all have a great time listening to Progressive Women discuss some issues. First one I want to talk about: how good does it feel not to have DJ as the president anymore? I mean, when I woke up January the 20th, I was just in a super, super great mood. Anybody can tackle it.
I'm a little calmer, but I'm still in a rage. I've been in a rage for months, and every month it gets worse. With all the happenings this month, I am so angry. I want to see people pay for what they did. I don't want to see them get away with it.
Oh, you're talking about the terrorist attack. I'm just talking about
Not just that. Not just that. Just everything.
Oh,
so much has happened.
Right. I agree with Mickey. It is a bittersweet one. We don't have to deal with a psychotic person running our country anymore. However, if we're going to go back to the way things always were, it is not making me, hopeful of a future. I feel like they need to offer more than status quo and more of the same. It does look like he's trying to do some initiatives. I like the way he was moving with these executive orders. However, they promised $2,000 a month. Now they're talking 14, and now they're talking about 1,400. Not a month, my bad. They promised a $2,000 one-time payment. So already keep your expectations low. But then now they're talking about they can't even get it to you until April. People are getting evicted now. People are hungry now. People are in breadlines now. Don't come here with that more of the same, because you're going to not only lose this presidency in 2024, you're going to lose your Congress and your Senate November 22. So get on the good foot, Joe, and stop thinking that incrementalism is going to do it, because it's not.
I was trying to be positive. Y'all just
I'll be positive for you, Tracy.
Yay.
Somebody be.
I have to say, I stayed up all night and watched right through into the next morning. And having DJT gone, yeah, happy about that. Mixed feelings like everybody else, because of course it wasn't. We all know who we wanted, Bernie, and we got Biden, But yeah, it's having him gone is great. Now I think, like everybody else, we need to make sure he stays gone. And we also need to ensure that Biden's feet to the fire. Things have got to change. There's no other way about it. Or what just happened in 4 years' time, if history repeats itself, you're going to be dealing with somebody else that's just as bad, if not worse, because they'll be intelligent, or you're going to be dealing with the crazy man himself. And let's be honest, a few more years isn't going to be a benefit to his personality.
Right.
And yeah, that's a good point. But there are some things about the the inauguration that I really enjoyed. But I want to start off with this.
Mm-hmm.
Who told J-Lo to sing? Who? I'm sorry. I know that's not political, but I'm just like, girl, sit all the way down. No.
I don't follow popular music or people at all.
Oh, well.
I've seen and heard of Lady Gaga, and who hasn't heard of her? I couldn't believe the voice that woman has.
Oh, yes, isn't she just stunning?
Yes.
I was stunned. She's amazing.
But that big old bird on her shirt, though, I'm like, what the heck?
It was a dove with an olive branch.
That was a bird with a whatever.
Yeah, a gold dove with an olive branch.
Yeah, I was just like,
the bird might have been a homage to Bernie.
And of course, we got to talk about the Bernie memes with the mittens.
Oh my God.
I mean, I've seen some of the most creative ones. I've seen Bernie in a Medea play. I've seen Bernie in The Wizard of Oz. I've seen Bernie in I'm trying to think of Friday. I'm like, okay, you guys are getting really creative with this Bernie and Mittens meme.
Can you believe all the people loving them,
Right.
looking at them, and for once getting memes where you feel warm and comfortable and happy? Isn't that wonderful?
It is.
Mhm.
My favorite, the best one I've seen that brought tears to my eyes, that picture when he was in college and being dragged off by the cops.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
There's
Yeah.
today's Bernie. Oh, what did it say? But today's Bernie was looking at yesterday's Bernie and saying something like, "Go get him" or something like that. That brought tears to my
Yeah,
eyes.
that did
Oh.
bring a little tears.
Oh, I don't think I saw it. Somebody
Yeah,
please
you'll-
forward it to me.
I
Yes,
haven't. I
please,
will.
Mickey.
because it's real. I saw it too, and I was like, okay, doggone onions, stop. Because it's really moving. It's like him getting arrested when he was protesting way back in the 60s, and him now in the Mittens. I'm like, who, that one's good.
Mm.
But like I said, I thought the Bernie Mittens memes, I'm just like, okay, people either have too much time or we just need a great big relief.
And Bernie's inspirational. Let's never forget that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I'm sort of glad, and I know some people wanted Bernie to be Secretary of Labor, but I actually like him in the Senate. And
Yeah.
the reason that I like him in the Senate is because we know nobody's gonna roll over him. If he had been in the cabinet, he would have had to be a yes person. And I don't think Bernie's a yes person. But some people are like, oh, he should have got Secretary of Labor. And I'm like, no, he can do more.
Yeah.
And chairman of, I forget what committee.
Budget.
Yes, he can do more with the budget than he could being Secretary of Labor, if that's making sense to anybody.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Oh,
That's
most
absolutely right.
definitely.
And he's already whipping it, right? Like he's already putting things out there and he's going high because he knows they're going to try to go medium the road. And so maybe they can settle at a nice medium high, So he's already trying to invoke some Medicare for all during this pandemic. And he's already trying to erase student debt during this pandemic. And he's trying to do some really good things. And this was Paul Ryan's worst nightmare, was Bernie Sanders getting to be the head of a committee, especially budget committee.
Yeah.
So he's exactly where he needs to be. And I hope he kicks butt and takes names.
Yep.
We need more people like Bernie. And like I said, I know I'm jumping the subject, but I'm gonna say this. I really want Nina Turner to win so bad.
God.
Yeah.
I was just going
So
to say that.
badly. Because we need, and not to say that I hate anybody in the squad, because I don't.
Right.
But for me, she's like younger Bernie.
Right.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
She's
Mhm.
a
Exactly.
powerhouse.
She's a powerhouse.
She doesn't care.
We need to be working really on finding people like that to run for office, because we need them at every single level of government. We have Democrats, like you said, Talisha, they'll start off with 2,000. Oh, well, no, we're going to subtract the 600. Oh, what? We heard you say 2,000. You said if you got elected and you voted for Warnock and Ossoff, $2,000 checks would be on the way.
Right.
Immediately.
1,400 is not 2,000.
Don't forget, he also said immediately.
He
Right.
did say immediately. And April's not immediate. Immediate is next week, 2 weeks
Right.
from now. I guess I do understand it in part, is I'm just wondering, when will people take to the streets and start demanding, hey, you said this and now you're doing that. And I wish there was more of a coordinated effort to do that.
I've already emailed Schumer to let him know what we New Yorkers think of him wanting to share power with McConnell.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, that's the next subject I'm going to get to.
I
A
told him,
question, sorry, are any of your states giving you any money?
No, not Indiana.
So I think DC's
Okay.
doing a thing. I'm
But
on
that's not a
so I'm
state,
little-
yeah, but
Yeah, we're not real.
They pay
should
for
be
taxes, but they're not a state.
Right. We need some statehood. So make sure you guys are
Yes,
calling
we
about
do.
that too when you're calling your Congress people.
I've already started at least once a week emailing the progressive, the Justice Democrats, begging them to find a primary for Schumer.
And I think that's what's kind of lit the fire under him for certain things, because he is so scared that 2022 is going to knock him off his block. I honestly don't understand how he got the Senate majority kind of lead title, because he's such, he just lays down for the Republicans. But one of the
He's
things
an
that's,
Eeyore.
it's crazy.
He's a
And
what,
like,
Cat?
An Eeyore. I was listening to him talk when he said they make the erection comment by mistake the other day.
Oh, okay.
And I was listening to him talk, and his cadence.
Yeah,
And
they're
it's
so
just
used
like,
to losing.
buddy, like, wake up, like, show your enthuse, show you care, show you at least. I just looked at Mike and I went, he's an Eeyore. Like, he did. Like, how does he get elected? It's just so.
I keep asking that same question about Pelosi. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Really? Come on, San Francisco. Really?
Well, there's a lot of rich people in San Francisco, and she caters to that rich base. And this is why she keeps getting elected, and she keeps amassing power after power, especially because she does raise a lot of money. And apparently, unfortunately, until we get money out of politics, she will still be the ruler of the roost. I guess Schumer also raises a lot of money. But what I was telling you guys last night is they weren't planning on winning these offices. They thought they were going to lose in Georgia and they could just be the opposition party for the next 2 years and say, well, we tried, but the Republicans are stopping us. But now they have at least a 50-50 majority, with Kamala being the tiebreaker, Vice President Harris being the tiebreaker. And so they don't know what to do. Like, they have no plan. And I'm sick of these Democrats. I'm so sick of them. And I told you guys, my last election was the last lesser of two evil elections. And so if they don't get on the good foot, I'm out of this party. I'm only staying because I don't think a third party is a viable option. However, if you're going to do more of this bull crap where you don't do your job, and we are supposed to look at you and keep waiting, you're gone. And I'm going to put money behind everybody that will primary these people because they don't do their jobs. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you, Talisha. I definitely don't think that the Democrats thought that those seats in Georgia were going to go the way that they were going to go. And now you have our favorite Democrat / why is he a Democrat, Joe Manchin, decided, you know what? Now that we are in power, I'm going to just flex around. Now, luckily, when he said, I don't think that people should get $2,000, someone smartly got to the people of West Virginia. It's like, hey, call this idiot and tell him what's what, and he backed down. But I don't know. I wish people like the Justice Democrats and maybe the People's Party or whomever would get people involved in the local level, because I think if these legislators would hear from their actual people, I think that would change things. I don't know if they would change their minds or their hearts, but at least it could change their actions.
Right.
I think Joe Manchin is still Joe Manchin. He's a Republican. Period. Right. Point blank. No doubt.
I've often said Joe Manchin is a Republican who is a plant in the Democratic Party.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Well, just like we saw how they opened the doors even for the DNC convention, they had Kasich and all these other, like, enough is enough, and not being prepared. Our Green Party leader in Canada, Anna May, of course, woman, so she has her plan, her policies, everything all written out. They've got I think they've got 3 seats now, out of all of them. Like, it's not like she's going to be in control anytime soon, but the thing is, she's prepared for it.
Right.
The fact that the Dems weren't even prepared, you should have your policies going into this election. They should have had, this is our platform, these are our policies. And then if we do get in power, which they ended up doing, they're prepared.
Right.
I don't think they
just find it constant.
Yeah, I don't
tearing down.
Yeah, even if they are prepared, they can't message. Democrats don't know how to message.
Yeah. Exactly. They don't know how to message. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Kat, but I did a video a long time ago when I started this podcasting / YouTube journey of how the Democrats love to lose. It's like they do. It's like, okay, your party, the people in your party, 87% of them say we're for Medicare for all. Joe Biden, Democrat, head of the party now because he's now president, says, "Oh no, I'll veto it." What? Are you serious?
Even
Are you really serious?
70% of Republican voters want M4A.
Yeah,
70%.
Exactly. But I'm using that as an example to show how the Democrats just love to lose.
It's the whole country wants it. The whole country. You want a bipartisan issue? The whole country wants it.
Right.
well, let's put it bluntly, are the Democrats being paid to lose? Because
Yes.
sometimes I
Yes,
actually,
Kat.
I look at it and go, you know what? Like, okay, we aren't allowed to use foul words, so I won't to, but they could fill in the blank, the Lord's Prayer. Seriously, like,
Right.
you know, if a Medicare hit the ground running like Bernie did, and we all saw it, and the world witnessed it, when Bernie hit the ground running, promising Medicare for all, he got those donations from the people. So
Right.
the people who aren't doing Medicare for all are getting the donations from obviously
healthcare
not
industry.
the people.
Healthcare
So
industry.
they're being paid to lose. And think about it. If, you know, if we wanted to even say conspiracy, if you were a high paid Democrat and you were a high paid Republican, and both of your donors, let's be honest, in a big majority of cases are the same, because all these companies go, oh, we give equal to both.
Yes.
Let's be honest, you're buying off both. So then nobody really is being paid not to do anything for the people.
And see, that's
And
what
it's all donations.
and that's what I guess I don't understand, because in anybody, when you can educate me on this, I always thought that $2,500 was the limit. Like, you can't give
Citizens United.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand. I'm like, how can these companies give millions and millions of dollars? I'm sitting here thinking, oh, 2,500 is the limit.
Super
Because
PACs.
of tax.
Yeah,
Tax,
Super
Okay, so
PACs and
PACs don't
Citizen
have a limit.
United.
they don't
So
have the
PACs have no limit.
There's no limit on super
See,
PACs.
that's what I wasn't realizing in my head, because I kept saying, well, 2,500 is what I could give.
Right.
And I'm maxed out. But if I had a super PAC like Tracy's the greatest person in the world PAC, I could give unlimited and it wouldn't be.
Exactly. And then I want to say, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say corporations don't have the limit of 2,500 either, because
Nope.
even though they're people, it's considered a whole group donating. So I don't think
That's
they have
the
2,500
Citizens
limit.
United component that brought
Mm.
basically it gave the carte blanche to corporations. It's one of the things we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen in Canada, but it's already happening, let's be honest. But it's a point of looking at what's going to be happening in the future, because right now Citizens United, a bill has been introduced already to get rid of Citizens United. I'm going to tell you, in my impression, that is going to be the one that the mainstream media either doesn't talk about
Absolutely.
or tries to pan, because you
Yeah.
got to think that has been their coin purse for the last couple decades. Networks have enjoyed having donations come in, they buy spots in the network is happy, then it reverses around, and that's all. It's a constant, complete circle of their money. You know, the donations come in, and let's be honest, like the Murdoch, all these people, the pharmacy companies, all of them,
Right.
they all buy spots and commercials, everything.
Exactly.
It's just, technically, I would say we haven't, well, not, Chomsky said, we really haven't had an elected official that's really an elected official for almost over 30 years. What we have had is a circus that has been meant to entertain all of us.
It
And
started
nobody
shady.
really working for us. And that's the thing, is that's how we landed, you know, in the US with the reality show president, and we in Canada landed up with a drama teacher. Yeah, he looks pretty and everything, and he's doing things reasonably well now. But let's be honest, we've got a pipeline that wasn't supposed to be bought. We've got quite a few other things, and we've got, you know, the cronyism and all of this, the
Right.
same as the US. But the part is we're being entertained. So we don't have politicians per se. What we have is paid commercials that occupy our offices of law.
This
And
started 40 years ago with Reagan. He was
Yep,
the
yep.
superstar actor. He deregulated businesses.
Mm.
He stopped all of FDR's programs. He is the
Yep.
one who started the downslide of both parties, just to
Mhm.
follow the money.
I believe
40
it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that it's so many parts to this because it seems to me that you have the media that plays some parts deciding who's going to win. You have the parties themselves, either the Republicans not even holding any type of primaries at all to make sure that their clown face gets reelected, or you have the Democrats that'll collaborate to say, okay, we want this person because we really don't want to do anything. And for me, it's just like I said, I'm in the search for another party because for me, the last time I voted Democrat was the last time I voted Democrat because I'm tired of it. There was no way I would ever consider voting for Republicans because to me they're crazy. But for me, it's like, okay, I know I'm not crazy when I think that the minimum wage should be $20 an hour.
At least.
At least, because I don't think 15 is enough.
No, it's not.
I really don't think 20 is enough, but let's start with 20. But you look at issues like that and you'll talk to regular people and they'll say, and this is how we're gonna ease into the next topic. You're giving people $20 an hour to flip a burger. No, do you realize what someone at McDonald's actually does? They have to clean the restaurants to a point that passes all health standards. They have to deal with your cranky behind every single day. They have to count money. They have to take payments. They have to prepare food. They have to sometimes entertain.
All while in a pandemic.
All while in a pandemic. And even if there wasn't a pandemic, we need to be, more, I don't know, we need to be more aware of what's going on. And when we hear politicians say, oh, I don't think someone needs $15 or $20 an hour. Well, you're a millionaire.
Right.
So what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Well, one of the things that is noted is the median income from 30 years ago, since 1979, the median income for the US is actually significantly lower than it was. That's the thing is they started 30 years ago. It was interesting. I was listening to Chomsky last night and he brought up a quote from Greenspan, Alan Greenspan, and when he was being interviewed, and he said the reason that they've had successful economic policies is due to the fact of the workers' destabilization. So actually have the employees feel destabilized, have them scared that they could lose their job and you create this whole atmosphere. And it was interesting because when I was listening to it last night, I went, yep, I could see that because, everybody was scared. Everybody's scared. So nobody's going to fight hard because, hey, somebody else can walk in and take my job.
Exactly.
This is this mentality that they have been feeding to all of us for the last 30 years. And I go back to, it's not like the 70s were exactly great, but when Reagan and Mulrooney, like with us in North America, that's when they sold all of us. That's when our unions were doing good. Environmentally, we had made some significant movements forward in the 70s. And then neoliberal policies came in. So even if you voted Dem, you got pretend policies. And if you voted Republican, you really went over the deep end. In Canada, it was the same. If you voted Conservative, which is like our Republican Party, you're right over the deep end and lose a huge chunk of your rights, especially as a female. And if you vote Liberal, well, you've just, essentially just brought the corporation to the parliament. So it didn't make any difference.
Yeah,
somebody posted an article on the CEO of McDonald's explaining why we can't pay $15 minimum wage. Just out of curiosity, I researched him. In 2019, in pay and in perks, he made 1 year, he made $20 million in
Lord
1
have
year.
mercy.
That's why we can't afford to pay $15 an hour.
What did
20
he have the nerve to say his excuse
I
was,
looked
Mickey?
up, somebody else brought up Trader Joe's, so I looked up the owner of Trader Joe's, who also is complaining about having to raise minimum wage. He is worth $1.1 billion.
Mm.
And I'm curious, how come McDonald's in other countries can pay a decent wage? I believe I was reading in Norway or something, it's 20 something $28 an hour, and the burgers are the same price.
I think everything's better in Norway.
I know, eh?
No,
It really feels, except for it's cold.
Yeah, Norway.
Norway, New Zealand with me. I want to go to Middle Earth. No.
somewhere but
Yeah,
here.
Me
But
too.
Mickey, what did the McDonald's CEO say his reasoning for not being able to
Well, they would
increase
have
the
to
wage?
raise prices terribly high. They don't make enough of a profit on, per unit.
Lies.
He's lying. First of all, their burgers are
It's
trash.
What?
McDonald's, you were trash.
I mean, their fries are delicious. Let's not
If
throw the baby out with the bathwater.
okay, if they're hot right out of the grease,
Grease, right?
yeah. But you let them things sit 2 minutes. They'll be thrown away. They're trash. Their burgers are trash. Trash. But and it's that kind of mentality. That's why the whole, and I know I'm jumping around, but
You're
it
great.
connects to the whole when Obama said that comment about the defund the police. That's the way people really think. If you talk about an issue, it's going to cause you to get opposite of what you want. No, talking about it is what's going to make it change in a way that's positive. And I've just never understood the mind of the voter. I don't understand why people tell me, "Oh, I want health care for all," but you're going to vote for this Democrat who tells you to your face, if Medicare for all comes across my desk, I'll veto it. You vote for him, one, because he's not the other guy, okay? But he's just as bad as the other guy. If you really look at their policies, they're really the same. We didn't get really anything else. The only difference is one person had a male vice president, the other has a female vice president. If you look at their personal history, pretty much the same. We know that Joe Biden's been accused of inappropriate relationships with women. We know Trump has. My goodness, he's cheated on every wife he's ever had.
True.
And he's currently in a questionable rape.
Right.
True.
And,
At least.
Yeah, at least. And that's what I'm saying. When I want to get you guys a thought is, why do people vote against their own interests? Is it a need to win? Or is it just the media is programming them to think if you vote for this person, you have a better shot? Because I don't understand it.
Well, when I was looking at, I reviewed some stuff last night and the last few days in regards to why people vote against their wishes. Because I know I myself did it before I went completely green. And one of the things is they pointed out is resentment. It's leadership by resentment. And this is by Ruth Capri. She said, poor working class whites have become deeply frustrated and resentful. They perceive that social programs don't help them as much as they help, are targeted towards ethnic minorities. In addition, white males may additionally resent recent advancements by women, of course, and possibly, and that's hence why they really didn't like Hillary. And they pointed out that resentment is a powerful force, and those that feel disenfranchised fuels other acts against one's own self-interests, including suicide, bombings, shootings, and supports toxic dictators. And one of the things that Chomsky says is, are they really voting against their self-interest, or more of they're doing it independent of their own interests? is they're angry, they're tired, and let's be honest, they're just grabbing for solutions. Hence, and this is why people, especially I think the Democratic Party did a lot of things to make sure Bernie didn't win.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at it, and this is why the people embraced Bernie. This is why they were willing to do their $1 donations when they only, because they were this, as much as people were desperate, like they first thought Obama was going to be the solution, and then he just became another neoliberal centrist like them all. But they knew Bernie was genuine, and they would have been willing. And I still say that if Bernie would have went up against Trump, Bernie would have won. And they're negating that because people were looking for hope. They were looking for solutions. You can only kick somebody in the face so many times before they go, you know what? I'm done with you kicking me in the face. And I think what we're looking at January 6th, yes, it was the Trump group. Yes, it was, all of the white supremacists and neo-fascists. But the point is, I look at it as it was a collective scream. They didn't, BLM didn't get violent. The women didn't get violent. This group did. But in a whole, I think everybody is screaming.
Right.
They just had a lot less control. And for whatever reason, that white privilege just shoves itself up everybody's butt. But
Yeah.
but the thing, that's the thing is, collectively, we're all screaming. The indigenous people, the black people, the people of color, everyone, the whites, everyone is screaming, and nobody's listening to
Yeah,
us.
but unfortunately, what some of these people are screaming is hate and fear.
Oh,
So-
definitely.
There are a whole lot of, especially on the right wing, a whole lot of them who will vote for a racist who will take
Definitely.
food off their table. They will vote.
But
They'll vote for a racist out of fear that blacks are going to take their jobs, Mexicans are going to take their jobs, and they would go hungry before they would hesitate to vote for their hate.
Right.
and it gets fostered and it gets fed by the Republicans, though they deny it, and I think by the Democrats too. It's not like
Oh, yeah.
this is the delivery message, and this is why AOC, Cory Bush are. I love Cory, but are so good with delivering a message. They're so blunt and clear. Like, what is it? Oh, we're gonna do this, and then we have that's Pelosi. Then we have or instead of AOC and Cory Bush. No, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to get it done. You
Right.
don't think minimum wage works? Instead of getting, oh well, I got to talk to my donors. It's you're right. It doesn't work, and we need to do something better. And this is what I have planned. And this is what we must demand. We have been fed these talking heads for 30 plus years.
Absolutely.
It's time to end. Do you know that Kennedy, this is another thing. Do you know that Kennedy, literally when he was even running, he hired an MIT group not to find what the people need, but to find out how to phrase things when talking to the individual groups. And the response is, well, how can you say different things to different groups? And what are you going to do when it comes to policy? I'm going to do my own policy, but I'm going to say all these things to different groups. And that's what they've been doing. They've been this constant bait and switch. I'm going to lie to you here, and then I'm going to do this instead as soon as I get elected. And the only one who hasn't done that is Bernie. Hence, in the 60s, he was getting dragged away at protests. And let's be honest, if needed to be, Bernie would be out there protesting again with his mitts and probably a toque on too. But he would be, and you know that about him. It's the same as all the people I've elected that I've but Leonard Krogh, our mayor of our city, who stepped down as from MLA. Why did I vote for him? Because he stood with me on a picket line against a pipeline. Why do I vote Green? Because Elizabeth May, again, stood with me. Why do I support Kennedy Stewart in Vancouver? Well, he himself got arrested. So did Elizabeth May. because they stood there and put their bodies up just as much as we put our bodies up for change. And I don't see the liberals doing it here, and the conservatives, well, they just, let's be honest, they'd sell us to Canada, or me to the US in a heartbeat.
You did say,
You know, that's why, you know, like, we gave you Cruz, but he left his little buddy Kenny behind, and he's just, oh my God.
we did
Oh,
see
seriously.
AOC.
Oh,
We
he's
saw
he's
AOC.
dumber than Cruz, I swear, and I didn't think that was possible.
Mickey, you said you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Sure, yeah.
We just saw AOC on the picket line at
Yep.
a strike, not at the inauguration.
Exactly. Where was she? Where she was needed with the people. It's time we stop, you know, and this is the thing when like with the primary thing that Tracy mentioned earlier, and I've been pushing here as I'm constantly saying, why don't you run? Why don't you run? Like Benjamin Dixon, watching him, and I started texting him, Ben, why aren't you running? This is what we need. We need these down ballots. We need people that really care for people, because let's be honest, those cadavers that occupy the houses, and they aren't doing anything. These old rich dudes and old rich women, they aren't doing anything. They're cadavers. So it's time for them to leave. And we need those down ballots replaced. And across North America, we need to start pushing back hard, because if we don't, in 4 years' time, if history repeats itself, we know what's going to happen. And this is where I see the Paul Ryan, if it's not Trump, coming up, and somebody else. It's going to be, they got through the stupid person to sell fascism. Now they're going to bring somebody who truly believes in it. So who actually has the ideology and will follow it and will do it. And like Paul Ryan, he's been thinking about taking away people's social since
Security.
he was in his kegger.
Right. Even though he benefited from Social Security. Now, Tracy, I can tell you, I can't speak for everyone else. I know why I voted against my interest, because Joe definitely was not my interest. But I personally felt, and this is where we kind of slightly disagree, I felt that he was not as bad as Trump. I literally thought Trump would be the destruction of the United States had he got another 4 years, because one, yes, he was too dumb to implement the policies he was trying to implement, but he inflicted a lot of pain on this country.
Oh yeah.
Rolling back
Stupid
civil
hurts.
rights, you know, fueling racial tensions. Now, mind you, we've always had racism in America. We all know this, but he fueled it. And I'm sorry, I'm not with the unity. I do not care about white men that decided that voting for Mitch McConnell was more important than voting for their interests. I don't want to reach out a hand to them. I don't want to see if they're okay. What I will do is vote for somebody who has policies that benefit everyone, but I honestly don't care what their rationale is. I don't want to know why they feel like they've been slighted when they've been given every opportunity. I love when D.L. Hughley always says, he's a comedian, he always says, white people blew a 400-year head start. You literally had 400 years ahead of us, and because we now got equity, sort of, you know, you're mad that that you now have to compete. And I'm not saying you guys are awesome, but I'm talking about white racists who feel like they are slighted because now they actually have to earn their positions, and Black people having to get affirmative action or getting special rules in place so we can just compete in the same markets should not upset you. And Mexicans are not stealing your jobs, white man in middle America. They are taking jobs that you refuse to take.
Yep.
So,
or that are being given to them because they aren't paying a decent wage.
exactly.
And the Mexicans are willing to work, because even, I believe it was Lindsey Graham that caught him outside of his country club one day, and was right at the beginning when all the elections, and he goes, well, why would we want to throw the Mexicans out? We need them here to work at the country club. And I thought,
Wow.
my God, you arrogant piece of crap.
Right.
But the thing is, in Canada, I remember one of the sayings that my buddy and longtime friend, he actually works for in the government, but he said, the worst thing that we can do is be an educated Indian, because they just hate it. Because
Exactly.
the last time an educated Indian went up against him, and that Louis Riel, Métis, and he didn't approach it like the way that people depict him. Oh, he was warrior. This was a educated man who got lawyer, etc. And he tried to approach it their way. He tried to write documents and submit them like, please don't take our land. We're farming it. You can't take it, etc. What did they do? They sent people to kill him. Let's be honest. To squash the Red River Rebellion. Okay, jump forward 200 years. Guess what? They still don't like educated Indians.
Right.
They still don't like educated Black people. We should have all just sat back and kept accepting our scraps that they were willing to throw at us for as long as they were willing to throw it. And the thing is, what we have to do now more than anything is push back, because we are educated, we are equal, and we are beyond equal. Because the thing is, we have a stronger voice, because it's been going on for far too long. Like you said, 400 years jumpstart. Sorry, you couldn't figure it out, guys. We're coming to fix it now.
Exactly.
You know,
And then they
that's,
just rather hear that racist rhetoric as opposed to, maybe saying, okay, I'm gonna vote for this Black person, I'm gonna vote for this woman, I'm gonna vote for this person of color who's actually pushing policies that's gonna help me and my family. It keeps them warm at night. I can only assume it's the racism that's keeping them warm at night when, Republicans used to just do the dog whistles, but then Trump came out with a bullhorn. And that's the only thing I can assume. And Lyndon B. Johnson said it best. You convince some white poor man that he's better than the smartest Black man. They'll give to you, but you make them feel like they're better than them. They'll empty their pockets for you. So the Southern strategy has not changed. It's just changed the way it's presented. And these folks have to learn that they're tired of being hungry and losing their jobs and their jobs getting outsourced. You don't hate Mexico and China because your jobs were outsourced. You need to be hating the Mitch McConnells, the Joe Bidens, anybody the Clintons, the people that put these policies in place that are robbing you, the Bushes, So
and why can't that be said on an election platform? Why don't the Democrats do that?
Like Mickey said, they're scared of messaging.
They're scared of messaging. It goes back to my point, is that the Democrats love to lose.
And back to it. Yeah.
And let's not the Democrats are as guilty of racism as the Republicans. Let's just not fool ourselves on that.
Oh, definitely.
I remember when Joe Biden was running the first time, or around the time that Obama was running, and he said that comment about you can't go to a gas station and you can't without finding an Indian, and I'm like, really? You just said that?
What? You can't find a what? I didn't.
He said you can't go to a gas station and not find an Indian who owns it.
Right.
He literally said that, and the media was like, okay. And then they found a couple Indian people.
I have at least 30 links over the last almost 50 years of proof of Biden's racism. It's not recent. He has been his first position in politics was local, like a local board, councilman, something like that. And when he was that, he fought against segregating the schools.
Yeah.
He did not want, let me think. He did not want his children going to a racial jungle.
Right.
I'm talking about 45 years ago, give or take. And I have all through his history.
That's what got you banned from Facebook, was telling that truth.
Yeah, and think about it. Isn't he
but that's the truth.
Yeah, isn't he the one that said that the smartest Black kid? I forget the
oh yes, that little. Oh yes.
Poor kids are as bright as white kids.
Yes.
He said poor Black kids are as bright as white kids. Really?
Well, he just said poor kids, and it just kind of assumed that he was saying Black kids or people of color can be just as smart as white kids.
It was in the same speech that he said we need to put social workers in the homes of the POCs to teach them how to raise their children.
Oh,
that's the same. That's the same with the indigenous. We don't know how to raise kids either. No.
I forgot about the record player. I'm like, record player? Is this the 1970s? Because I forgot.
Yes,
Yeah.
Joe is definitely problematic. And I have a feeling the next 4 years are going to definitely be topsy-turvy. Matter of fact, we all know how he showed his butt on the phone with those civil rights leaders, basically
Yep.
trying to get equitable policies. It seems like he has like zero patience for people
Exactly.
trying to get policies passed, but he just has no problems reaching across the aisle for Mitch McConnell, and I'm going to work with them in unity. But somehow when a brown or black hand reaches out a hand, he's like ready to bite it off. That lady that questioned him on something when he called her a lion, dog face, pony soldier, and granted it was supposed to be a joke, but that's not funny. I'm asking you about real policy. What are you going to do? And you telling folks don't vote for you? Like, it was all a mess.
Well,
and we all know that
Can I-
Barack Obama and the DNC put their hand on that scale.
I mean, we know that.
Dog-faced pony soldier is a double hit.
Yep.
Because considering what they did to the
Yes.
dog soldiers, that is like, I'm sorry. You're considering it an insult, calling somebody that. I would consider it an honor because the pony soul, like that's what I mean. They're being racist on top of racist, and they don't even realize it.
Oh, Wildcat, I
Because-
don't think I knew that was racist. What is the pony soldier?
Well, the pony soldiers were one of the last actual natives that escaped and tried to stay ahead of the colonization. They were
Wow.
butchered and beaten. The dog soldiers, they were some of the ones that were literally the stories where you hear where they beat the women and the children with the butts of their rifle to save
Right.
the bullets.
Oh my God,
These
yeah, I
are
didn't know that.
this is the part of that group. So that's what I mean. Like, it just, and so when somebody says this old colloquialism, no, it was a racist, ignorant comment then, and it's a racist, ignorant comment at so many levels now. And that's what I mean, not knowing the history.
And let's
Wow.
let's not forget that the Democratic, two things. Let's not forget that Joe Biden went on Charlemagne the God show and said, "Quote, if you don't vote for me, you're not black," and decided that he was going to play Joe the Rapper with a way that he does not. You don't talk like that.
Right.
And he faked a ghetto accent.
And
Right.
that's not even a ghetto.
He lumped all blacks together. All
Right.
blacks vote this way. All blacks think that way.
Right.
The things I have a list somewhere. I have to find it. But the things he did on that show, people concentrate on the "if you don't vote for me, you ain't black."
Right.
He said and did a whole lot more than that on that show.
He did because I watched the whole interview and I'm like, and then what made me, I guess, angry about it, I had so many of my black friends. Oh, well, yeah, he's telling the truth. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Are you serious with this? It was just like, okay, I know I'm black because I'm looking at my hands, I'm looking at my face, I'm looking at my nose, I'm looking at my lips. Everything about me tells me I'm black. So now because I'm not voting for what? And then
Right.
you just have, oh, well, what? See, if you vote for Trump, you're not black. Okay. If you want to say if you don't vote for Trump, he doesn't have black interests in mind, he doesn't.
True.
Think of the mindset that can say that.
That's
publicly.
exactly.
That's what I was like. What does
The entitlement.
Yes.
exactly? And nobody, no black media called him to the carpet for that. If
I think Roland Martin did. Roland Martin did, but I have my issues with Roland, but he did. He called Joe out and he broke it down how Joe was wrong. But we all know, as much as we hated Trump, I think folks are willing to overlook that. And a lot of folks,
Yeah,
I'm telling you, Tracy, I'm with you. I got in a lot of fights that day. I have a black vets group that I'm a part of, and they were coming for my neck because I was just like, no, F Joe. This is before I decided to give up the ghost and go ahead and vote for Joe. This is before he turned my military on peaceful protesters. So, and a lot of folks were just like, listen, it's not about that. We got to get rid of Trump. We got to get rid of Trump. And that's all people were saying. But guess why? The freaking media, if not DNC, Obama, yes, huge finger on the scale. But the media from day one told you Joe was the guy. Joe was your
Yeah.
pick. Joe's going to be the president. He
As
can
soon as he
Trump.
started running.
Yes.
As soon as he started running, it was,
Before
this is who they're sending out against Bernie.
Do you
Yes.
realize the Democratic Party, the DNC, spent $15 million in a Stop Bernie campaign?
I believe it.
yes, I believe it.
DNC.
I believe it.
I-
And then
I-
I love Bernie, and so many people have turned against him. A lot of progressives have turned against
I don't
him
know why.
because one, Bernie's a man of his word. He signed an agreement. He said he would campaign for whoever won the primary, even though we all hated him. And so many progressives say Bernie sold them out, and Bernie should have voted for Howie Hawkins. Like, we all knew Howie wasn't going to make it. So Bernie's not a sellout. Bernie did what he said he was going to do. And it kind of irritates me that so many people now are turning their back on him, even though he's fighting tooth and nail to still make sure we get some money in our pockets.
Yeah, we
without
fight for them
Bernie-
regardless. So, guys, at this point, audience, we're going to take a 5-minute break here. So I'm going to put this on pause and we're going to come right back. See y'all in a bit. Okay, audience, we are back here with the Progressive Queens. I'm joined by Mickey, Talisha, and Kat. Everybody wave hello, because we're back.
Hello.
Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off before the break. And Kat, you wanted to share a quote of yours. And I want you to share that because I think it really ties into what we're talking about.
It's from Noam Chomsky, and this is 6 years ago. So this was in 2014, no longer. If somebody comes along who is charismatic and honest, this country is in really trouble because of the frustration, disillusionment, the justified anger, and the absence of any coherent response. What are people supposed to think? If someone says, I've got an answer, we have an enemy. There it was the Jews. Here it will be the legal immigrants and the blacks. Describing the Democratic establishment as the equivalent of moderate Republicans of the past, Chomsky pointed to the Republicans' dedication to the wealthy and corporate sector as rendering them unable to gain support for their programs without mobilizing evangelicals, nativists, racists, and the victims of forms of globalization. The angry and disaffected are victims of the neoliberal policies of the past generation. And when he speaks of the past generation, he's meaning since Reagan, since the 1970s. These groups share the anger throughout the West at the centrist establishment.
And that sounds exactly like what Trump did. So
yeah, and
let me find out Trump listened to Chomsky.
Yeah. Well, okay, no, there's no way.
I
don't even think Trump would probably know who Chomsky is.
He has no clue.
Like that's just my take on it. But that's the thing is, we have known this is going to be happening. Like, I've been reading and listening to Chomsky since the 70s and 80s because that's probably why I became who I was in regards to protests and stuff. And again, we'll go back to the earlier discussion and statements that we made. 30 years ago, the minimum wage was something people could live on. Like, we were discussing it in our home, like, prior to my mother working in the hospital and Mike's mother doing, I can't remember what she did. Both of them worked in retail. Working in a retail at a store was a good job.
Right.
You could, you could be a clerk or a teller or whatever, and you were getting a decent wage 30 years ago.
Right.
Now, 30 years ago, they're still almost getting the same wage.
Right.
Bank tellers are having like all of these. And the thing is, we aren't being told, we aren't seeing it. So I think a lot of people are feeling so isolated in regards to it. And I think this is one of the things that we need to do as progressives is pull everybody in. And it really, it's almost like tell Bernie's message to everyone. Bernie does have the right message. We all know that. So that's what we've got to push the Dems to sell. And if the Democrats and like, I know, like, we're going to be pushing Trudeau really hard here because we've got a pipeline across Canada to stop right now.
Right.
And plus a dam stop that being built and an LNG plant. But the thing is, we're going to be pushing back hard. And this is the only avenue we have at this point, because if we don't, we have a country, you guys have a country to save. We have also a world to save, because if we don't push back, Murdoch and the cronies and the Bezos of the world are going to own it all. They already they already own the global wealth, and it's only going to get worse. Like, look at those Amazon workers. Like,
Right.
why aren't they getting paid a decent age? Warehouse jobs 30 years ago was a
Yes.
good job. I
Great
knew a
job.
lot of people that went out of school, like went straight to the workforce out of school. They worked in warehouses. They bought homes.
Right.
They fed their
The
families.
big problem is a lot of Democratic voters don't bother to research any of this stuff.
Right.
I'm fighting with people in progressive groups non-stop. People who say $15 an hour will put small businesses out of business. I then give them several states that have had it for a couple of years, several cities, including New York City, one of the most expensive places to live. They've
Right.
had $15 minimum for over 2 years. And what happened was you gave the people the money, they spent it. Small businesses had to hire more employees.
Right.
Economics 101. But
Right.
the
Yep.
them
I think-
voters in
yeah.
progressive groups are arguing
Right.
against so many of the policies. It takes Google a second or less to research something.
Right.
Dude, my God, it's not like when I was a kid, you had to walk 6 blocks to the library,
Right.
find the stack of books you want, find the right book, find the right page on the right book. No, Google takes a second or less. Do
Right.
it.
But the
Yeah.
problem is you have the propaganda machine is like no other. And like we've all been saying, the mainstream media is one of the biggest pushers of propaganda because they are bought and sold by the corporations and the healthcare industry and big pharma. So they will keep pushing these bullcrap narratives that tell you that small businesses, we got to worry about the small business because they're going out of business. No. We have to worry about these big corporations that are sucking up all the business and shutting down these small businesses. Increasing the wage does not shut down a business, like Mickey said. It literally stimulates the economy and it grows more. So other than us getting a progressive mainstream channel, because yeah, we have TYT, but we had to go find that. It wasn't like I personally had no idea it existed until 4 years ago when Trump got elected. So your average low information voter, which I used to be that person, doesn't know that this truth is out there. So I don't know what has to happen, you guys. I don't know. We need to make sure we're putting our money behind a grassroots mainstream channel because it's going to have to hit the cable news because for whatever reason, people are stuck on their CNN, their MSNBC, and their Fox like no other, and they're not trying to leave it.
And the
another
thing is,
big
if you give
problem
them, if you take the dollars from them, and this is like Midas Touch did, and they were those young boys that took to push forward. What happened? Mainstream media had to put them on. And this is exactly like the progressive queens. Get the voices out there, get people learning, get people understanding, and understanding that no, they can stop voting against their own interests. They get, or they're, independent of their own interests, as Chomsky said. And that's the thing is we need to start, you know what? They're all politicians aren't crooks. All politicians don't become dirty. We have living proof of that in Mr. Sanders. And we
Right.
have to start saying, you know what? Do you think he's an anomaly? Then that's a bigger issue.
Right.
How about
What do we
let's
do
prove
with
that there are other people? We have the AOCs, we have Cori Bush, we have these Jamal Bowman. Let's push forward. We need more and more and more. And that's the thing is get the voices out there. Take the control that mainstream media has essentially locked onto politics and say, you know what, you aren't doing it right. You aren't asking the questions. You aren't, and push back because we saw with, when the right wing wanted something, gosh, they got their OAN, they got their Newsmax, whatever, and they all switched. And we could pull that same group with education. Civics is the main thing. People not only have to know how to vote, they have to know why they're voting.
Why they're voting. And I think you just got onto what I was about to talk about is messaging. Messaging is so important. We don't, and I know this show doesn't have it, and I wish we did. I wish I had millions of dollars to go out there on everybody's door, but I don't. I have to use what I have until I get what I need.
Right.
And I think what's going to need to happen is we're gonna have to take this to the old school and start knocking on doors.
Yeah.
That's what it's gonna take. I mean, once COVID passes, don't go out now, anybody. Do not go out now. But once this COVID thing passes over, we're gonna have to take this to the old school and start door knocking and
What
start.
do we do with the people who refuse to hear the message?
I say bump them.
A woman today, as a matter of fact, a friend tagged me into his page because a woman in a progressive group insisted the DNC would not cheat, they would not rig. So I very quietly, calmly, and politely explained what they did in 16.
Mm-hmm.
She went on a nasty rant how they wouldn't do that. I then gave her a link to the court case where they admitted in court
Right.
that they rigged the primaries. They admitted in court that they don't have to listen to the people. The woman came, I give her credit, she clicked on the link. She said it was dismissed. I said, did you read why it was dismissed? She said, because they're a private company, corporation. I said, that's fine, but did you catch the part where they admitted under oath that they rigged? They admitted they don't listen to the people. Did you get that part? And she said, it was dismissed, so it doesn't count.
Oh God.
What the fuck? You know what?
So admitting something under oath and then going, oh, well, the court technicality all of a sudden makes the truth null and void. Like, what do you do with those people?
How do you reach those people?
I got an answer. I have an answer to that question.
Okay.
Knock
And
'em
my
upside the head.
parents taught me this a long time ago. Some people you have to wave goodbye to.
Mm.
Just like, you know what? I can't talk. There's some people on Facebook who I used to be friends with. I'm so glad they clicked off of me and unfriended me. Thank you, God. Because you're not going to sit here and tell me that the DNC and Obama didn't have anything to do with Bernie Sanders not getting the, you're not going to tell me that.
Right.
Because everything, you don't have to be Nancy Drew or Jessica Fletcher or anybody else that solves mysteries to know what happened. You don't
Right.
have to be. So when I bring up a point and your counterpoint is, but he's not Trump or they're not the Republicans, I don't care.
Right.
It takes me not getting a Republican office to get Medicare for all. That's what it's going to take for me.
True.
That's me. Of course, I don't know any Republican that came out to say that they're for Medicare for all. I don't know any of them.
I don't
But,
think there is any.
but
Maybe that's the first thing that we should say to people is just say, you know what? Why don't you ask your politician, are you for Medicare for all? Just keep asking it. Everybody just keep asking their politician that. Like, start a thing. Ask Medicare for all. And that, everybody wants to push it in the vote and the thing. What if
Right.
everybody starts directly just asking?
And you know what?
Question.
Another thing that
No,
frustrates me?
yeah.
Another thing that frustrates the world out of me is when people say now is not the time. When is going to be the
When is
time?
the time?
What time? What day? What year? What month?
You
When?
realize FDR proposed that.
Yep.
Yes.
How
Yes.
long ago was that? 60, 70 years ago?
Right.
When's the time?
Yep.
Right.
It's like they always want progressives or people, and I'm not even saying progressives because I think most people want what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. I think more people eliminate the Democrats and Republicans out of the equation. And let's be honest, most people are progressive.
Right.
Eliminate left, right, and Democrat, Republican. Everybody wants the world to continue. Everybody wants everyone to be taken care of. And if I'm saying everyone, because if you don't want those two things, you really aren't worth mentioning anyways.
Exactly.
Right.
That's beyond, and that's the thing is when I went back to this disenfranchised, okay, totally with the white supremacists and the racists off the table, you're idiots to begin with. But in regards to the people that are disenfranchised, when you like, okay, your parents, they worked hard. They were able to provide food because they worked, because they got a decent wage. It may not have been great. There was a lot of other things, but now jump forward 30 years. We have people working 2-3 jobs. We have, and then they turn around and go, oh, well, you're not raising your children well. Well, you know what? When I have to work 18 hours a day to feed them, I kind of
Right.
have to weigh out whether I'm going to be home to do homework or I'm
Right.
going to make sure there's breakfast on the table in the morning.
Exactly. And if they
And,
don't,
and that's a
yeah.
thing that they don't seem to want to, they don't want to discuss that. They don't want to discuss any of the things that are valid. And this is where it's not just sections that are having it. We are now seeing huge volumes of the population living in poverty
Yes.
or living in a
Exactly.
debt level that no one can maintain.
And you would think, and this is something I always just kind of blows my mind. When Amazon was wanting to build a warehouse, there were at least 25 cities bidding each other and giving
Yes.
tax breaks. First question, why does Amazon need a tax break? They don't pay taxes.
Exactly.
Second of all, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. And so I remember when AOC came out against that, people were like, oh, she's taking away our jobs.
Right.
No, she's not. She's calling them to be responsible.
Right.
Yep.
And the way, and I'm getting at that to say, the way that the media is allowed to shape and shift to the message that they want to give, we need alternative media, because what we have is garbage.
What we
Yeah.
need,
We
we need
garbage.
what Reagan, when he canceled the fairness doctrine,
Yeah.
that started the media going
Yeah.
crazy. We need that returned because you were not allowed to lie.
Mm.
If you had a candidate on your show, you had to give equal time to the opposing candidate.
Mhm.
You were not allowed to own the newspaper, the radio station, the television station, and
Right.
everything in that particular city. We need the fairness doctrine back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the many things. Because the thing is, this is what a lot of, and this is where I talking to the young people. I say, you know what, we fought hard in the 60s and 70s and 80s. You know, and pushing against Reagan when we were screaming, and Mulroney here in Canada, and Thatcher in the UK. There was, we were fighting, but we were fighting against a machine that was just ramping up, and we had no idea what we were coming up against. Okay, 30 years later,
No,
we now
40,
know who the
40.
machine is, and we have to fight back twice as hard. Like when I said in our break that the UK is now, of course, going to have its own Fox network. Murdoch's starting one there. Why is he starting one there? Because the divisiveness in England was, they've got them divisive enough that they separated them from the EU.
Mhm.
Now, jump forward a couple years. You put Fox News Network and white supremacy on the network in the UK,
Right.
realize what's going to happen. They had a big problem in regards to racism in the UK back in the 70s. I was there when a lot of things were changing, and the colonialism, and the British was having to give up, components in the countries that they had colonized. And a lot of people were moving to the UK, right? That were British citizens. If you were colonizing, right? You are colonized by them. You could actually had, like years ago, we used to have British passports literally in Canada decades ago. So what happened was, when all these people from the various colonies started to come to England, they had a huge problem with racism there, and then it all calmed back down again. Now let's insert Fox News.
Yeah.
Now let's insert Fox News with Brexit, with people out of work, no jobs, no hope for jobs, and the population density that
Especially a
hard
huge
to even
Muslim
imagine.
population.
And so what's going to happen there in 2 to 3 years? It's going to be January 6th, except for the Brits, when they lose their mind, it'll be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that I don't know why I thought of this, but I don't know if you guys, when I was obsessed with watching MSNBC, there was an African American gentleman, and I can never think of his name. He wears glasses.
Ellie Mastal?
No, his name is Jason something.
Jason Johnson.
Yes, he's the genius that called Black female supporters of Bernie. What did he say we were?
The Island of Misfit Black Girls. I'm blocked by him on Twitter. Thank you very much.
I follow him because he's just like the rest of them. I always tell my friends, I want a job just like Joy Reid. I want to be able to say racist stuff
Mhm.
against gay people, stuff, and still have a job.
Mm.
That's for me. That's that life for me. But
Mm.
I really don't because I would never say those things.
Right.
And then blame it on Russia. I'm like, okay.
Mm.
And then you're rewarded with your own show. Really? But I like I said, I know we need to really, really, really support alternative media because, like I said before, mainstream media is garbage. They cling on to a message because they're owned by corporations. Let's think about it. Viacom and I don't know who owns MSNBC. I always forget. CNN. They're all corporations. It's
Right.
in their best interest. If they say something for Medicare for all, well, that means Humanity and Anthem and Signal are going to no longer advertise. So that's money out of their pockets.
Exactly.
And we need to stand up and say, hey, dummy. Well, not dummy. Don't call people dummies. So they act like it. We need those things, not because, as one of the people who blocked me on Facebook said, oh, you all just want free stuff. No, my taxpayer dollars are already paying for that.
Absolutely.
Use the taxpayer dollars that I'm already paying to perform better.
Right.
Because what we're paying for now is giving corporations large tax cuts to create jobs. Really? You're going to really do that?
And bailouts. And then we give them
Yes.
on top of it.
Bailouts.
And the way that they sell bailouts, oh, we have to bail them out. No, let them go bankrupt like you do
Exactly.
the small business.
What killed me was the cruise industry. They're not even headquartered in the United States. They're not paying taxes here. Why did we bail out the cruise industry? When somebody figures that out, please tell me, because I don't understand.
Well, and the thing is, it goes back to what Tracy was saying with the Amazon movement, and we were all saying with the Amazon. Why is it even considered having to give them tax breaks? Do you get to not pay your property taxes?
Nope.
Because you want Tracy, I guess you're starting up this business enterprise of Tracy Media. I guess you should not have to pay your taxes.
I don't think
And
this
the government should be subsidizing you,
Right.
and et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm sorry, guys. Enough is enough. And if a business is going to fail to pay minimum wage, then the business is a failure to begin with. Because the business isn't for people, it isn't for anything then. So yeah, it's a failure. Because I can tell you, yeah.
Kat, you know what I was gonna say? If Tracy Media blows up, the state of Indiana is gonna know where to find me. they gonna find me, so I better hide my kids, my husband, because they're coming after me. I do not get to say, oh, I'm not gonna pay taxes. And right now, I'm hoping to become a homeowner. When I start paying property taxes, they're not gonna just say, you know what? You don't have
a media company. You don't have to pay.
Yeah, I don't have to. No.
Yeah.
And for you to do that to Amazon and then sell it to the people, oh, it's jobs. First of all, they're
shitty jobs. Oh, I did.
Yeah, see, we don't let it slip. But they're crappy jobs, and they're low wage pages, and healthcare takes up most of their paychecks. Oh, we offer healthcare. Well, the deductible's so high, nobody can beat it. I mean, there are companies that offer insurance plans. I'm like, you might as well not offer anything because what you're offering is trash. And I've used that word trash a lot today, but a lot of these corporations are just trash. Just all around.
And we're paying for them.
And we're paying for it. And your politicians will say, oh, they're bringing in jobs. I'm sorry, but when you're working for $18 an hour, which sounds like a lot until they start taking out taxes, until they start taking out health insurance, until they start all the takeaways, you're really down to like $14 or $15 an hour.
If that.
And you're walking, if you work at Amazon, you're walking from what are literally football fields, and you're lifting things, and you're performing manual labor,
right?
So that Jeff Bezos can make what, $31,000 an hour or something like that.
More than that.
It's probably more. I'm probably underselling it.
Way.
And then, like, how did he get away? Like, this is where I go back to where we were sitting in the 70s. Those jobs would have been unionized right out of the gate.
Exactly.
Right, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, same with all of the retail workers and everything. But what were we convinced of? Oh, if you unionize, then I won't be able to, you'll lose your job and I'll
Right.
hire somebody else. Like, literally it fed into, if we're going to go back to the fear of the Mexicans taking your job, or within Canada, oh, the immigrants will take your job.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? If my job isn't paying a decent wage for them either, then that's something we need to fix. And that's literally, instead of going along with the fear tactics, which is what, like we mentioned earlier with Greenspan saying unequivocally, what has caused the economic build, right? Post Reagan years was the having workers be destabilized.
Right.
Actually having the employees scared worked. When we think about it, you guys are probably too young, but Mickey, you remember those when we used to strike, and it would be the whole friggin' city at times. Like we had a strike in Vancouver, it was the entire city, and that was in the 80s.
Right.
All the unions came out, and we're seeing it again now with AOC
Right.
at that market. And what happened? The train came in, and what happened? The guy leaned out and went, "We're Teamsters too," and turned the train with all that stock right around. And that's what we need to see is unification.
Yeah.
That's but what they did is they made us hate unions. How did they make us hate unions? Oh, because they sold again the propaganda. Oh, unions aren't there for the real hard workers, or unions are corrupt. How did unions become corrupt? Oh, because the corporation paid into it.
Exactly.
Or there were bad leaders. Okay, what do we do with corrupt leaders? Same as we do in politics. We could do the same in unions. Vote them out.
Right.
Like the police union. The police union is one of the most disgusting, corrupt ones that I've seen.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my goodness.
And this is where we've got to be careful, because when we go to attack corrupt unions, i.e. the police union, they use that as an opening to say, oh, that's the case with all unions. Look at our poor teachers.
Oh gosh.
Look at our poor nurses sitting there. Our teachers you had a teacher in the US that was standing out at a friggin' freeway to try and get donations so she could buy staff supplies. We have teachers in Canada here that have classrooms over in excess of 30 plus with special needs kids in there. But in BC, they have the BC Teachers Union contract at one time was so tight that short of death and dismemberment, charged and convicted, you could still keep your job.
Oh, wow.
I don't know who wrote the BCTF contract, but when I reviewed it, I couldn't believe it. It is similar to what the police unions in the US.
Wow.
And all they'll do is move you to another school.
I think, not to cut you off, Kat, but I think about when I was a little girl, but when I was much, much, much younger and had just one digit in my age, I would think about how strikes would go. People were supportive of strikes. They would give them a cup of coffee, make a sandwich. But now when people strike, and this just is my opinion, now it's like
they're troublemakers.
They're troublemakers.
Yeah. And that's propaganda. That was all done with propaganda.
Right. And I don't know, and I know you guys are aware of it. The country of India just pulled off the greatest work stoppage in the history of the United States, in the history of the world. Sorry. If you can imagine just 2% of American workforce, it didn't have to be a whole lot, just 2% say, you know what? Nope, not today. No, not today. What that would actually change.
Well, Tracy, that goes back to your point. At this point, folks have no jobs. They're not getting any money. They're on the verge of eviction. They're hungry. They refuse to give us back our money.
PSR.
I don't understand why we're not yes, and I don't know why we're not in the streets. Like literally, them fools that did what they did at the Capitol, This is what all of America should be doing, but not for some foolishness that Trump
Oh,
was.
wait a minute. Now, we don't want people going out busting down the door.
Of course not. Of course not. No, not like that. Of
Yeah,
course
don't
not. Non-violent only.
Okay.
Like the
what I
women's
mean-
march, like the BLM marches.
Yes, and then we should literally be outside their doors. And not only should we be outside their doors, we should be writing letters, like Mickey said, calling. They should never have a second's peace. So for me, I don't understand what exactly is going to be the breaking point for America. It looked like we had a little bit of a fire with the George Floyd thing, but then everybody did their symbolic things, freaking Congress taking a knee and wearing the kente cloth. I'm still sickened by that.
Oh,
Companies putting Black Lives Matter. The symbolism seems to just appease the American people.
it's the
when you-
circus.
Yes, and when you try to tell them, hey, this isn't it, Jack, like, Joe, hey, Jack, when you try to tell them this isn't it, this is literally, they are coaxing you into sleep, and you're literally still getting robbed, raped, and pillaged. You need to stand up for yourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take, and I'm really sitting there waiting for that dam to break.
And
It's the education, and the thing is, we don't have the time, but one of the things that we're going to have to push forward is civics education, and that's in North America, that's UK, everywhere. So
Definitely
people
been
know
pulled
how
out
to
of our
vote, know
schools.
who to be voting for. And then one of the things that we really need to push back on is start getting similar to the unions, what Mickey and I saw when we were younger and growing up and participated in, is the propaganda that came out against the unions over the last 30 years. Like I sit there with guys that are making great money, like $40-50 an hour, and they're condemning their union. And I'm going, you do understand, you would not have that job. You would not have that wage. You would not have. And the thing is, oh, yes, I would, blah, blah, blah. No, you wouldn't. That was done through collective work of a lot of people protesting. They weren't even aware that Winnipeg had a general strike in 1990, where we essentially shut down the city and turned a trolley over and everything way back when. And those are the things that got the job. So those strikes happened in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s that led up to the 70s, where people were earning good wages. People, and we need to do that same aggressive push again and start going, really? So you're telling me it's not better to put, so Walmart, perfect example. Walmart doesn't pay off full benefits. They manipulate their schedules, same as a lot of these companies. They all got that app, so they don't have to pay benefits because they juggle people's hours, so they never meet the criteria to actually getting benefits. But in the meantime, okay, so now we have the staff of Walmart and I always go back to Walmart, that are now living on government subsidies.
Yep.
Yes.
Plus, Walmart's getting subsidies.
Yeah.
So but if Walmart's a viable company with profits, why are their employees having to be subsidized, and why are they having to be subsidized? Same with Amazon. If it's a viable company, right, then why are their employees having to be subsidized? Because let's be honest, if you're only earning $15 an hour, you're having to utilize some benefit to survive, whether it's reduced, it's.
I didn't mean to jump in front of you like that, but $15 an hour puts you out of Medicare, Medicaid. So
Exactly. So you're punished. You're punished.
Jeez.
You can't get it. I mean, I remember when I was on Medicaid, when I got a job, when I was seeking employment, I cried the day I lost my Medicaid. I mean, I literally was like, oh my gosh, because of what I had to pay. But
so essentially you're cut off even before you're and that's just, it's the same. What did we they were giving for disability here in BC? I think it was, what was it, $700 or $800 a month to people.
You can't.
And I
survive on
said,
that.
the average rent is over $1,000. So we're saying these people, oh, well, they can live together. Okay, so how are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to do all these different things and on disability? So we're also looking at people that had physical impairments. And so one of the things that the Green green, and some of our journalists actually did, which I was commended, is they went, okay, you try and live off of it.
Mm.
And they
Exactly.
literally had them try and live off it, i.e. feed the family or survive. And it doing that little experiment for less than a month made them revisit what they had to do in disability payments. Mind you, Horgan's not changing anything at this point, but that's, it's brought it back to the table going, this is reality. People can't live off these amounts of money. It's
Oh my
just
gosh, we should
physically
so
impossible.
we should do that here. I don't know how to get that fire going, but if
Yeah,
we had to make everyone do that, they would literally maybe, because look at Congress. They got
Yeah.
taken over or almost taken over. And now all of a sudden we got impeachments. We got metal detectors out front. They're trying to investigate, but yet they won't protect our kids in school because it's like nothing. So maybe, just maybe, if they've got to live like they're under the poverty line, they may decide, hey, we may need to put some protections out there for everyone else.
you know what? I'm gonna have to disagree with you just a tad, because in theory I agree with you, but I think what we need, and this goes back to the original point I made, I think we need to raise up progressives to primary these people.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's the
Oh, 100%.
we absolutely need to have them experiment what's it like to be poor. But unfortunately, some of these Congress people did grow up poor, and somehow they've gotten wealth. And now it's like all of a sudden they have amnesia and can't remember what it's like to struggle on a budget.
Absolutely.
So I think not only that, we need to be encouraging progressives to primary Chuck Schumer, who anybody that primaries him is going to get my money. And I live all the way in Indiana. He's not my senator. I don't care.
All right.
But we need to be looking. Somehow we need to tell people, hey, this is what's happening. And this is how it affects you. And I'm with Talisha. I don't know why the public seems to be okay with now Joe Biden decreasing from 2,000 to 1,400. Oh, well, politicians say that. And you're okay with this?
Right.
And that's what we need to keep pushing. We need to eliminate the right, the left, the Republican, the Democrat, the liberal, the conservative, and go, you know what? This is progressive. We don't have titles. We aren't divisive. We're inclusive to everybody because everybody needs help.
And we're campaigning.
And that's what I think with when we're looking at for progressive politicians. I know everybody wants to put the label of Dem or Republican. Oh, you can't approach a Republican. You know what? There's some people that are darn conservative. Like you guys are a lot more conservative in a lot of respects than I am. All right. I'm an old hippy dippy living on the couch on the coast here. But the point is, we have the same needs, wants to survival. We have the same desires to see good things for our fellow man. It's the divisiveness that creates the issue. When unions used to be big, right? And I remember this is you would see racism. Unions were actually one of the biggest pushes to eliminate racism, because as the equality for the jobs came in, you for the first time saw Black and white people working together and getting the same wage. And guess what? They were going to the same union meetings together. Right. They were talking together. They were learning about each other. It wasn't a separation. They were brothers.
Right. Well, that's the story as old as time, divide and conquer. They keep us down because we're divided. But how do you get that into middle America's head that, listen, stop caring about who your neighbor is married to, stop caring about who they pray to. How about we all talk about how we're gonna pay these bills? How about we all talk about how we're gonna pay these doctor bills? How about we all talk about how we're gonna get to work because we can't afford gas?
And that's what we need to do. We need to eliminate what
the culture war.
Yeah, the culture wars. We need to say, like, I know everybody says Roe versus Wade, and they always bring it up. Oh, that's why we'll never get the Republicans. Okay, I call BS on that, because like Medicare for all, the percentages aren't there to say to eliminate it. So let's go forward and let's deal with the things of, okay, there's food, shelter, right? Are two of the main things, and health, three of the healthcare. Okay. So how do we accomplish that without stepping on anybody's rules of their ideology, i.e., religion, whatever? We all need to eat.
Right.
We all need to have a roof over our heads. That's what we're fighting for, and we all need health care.
Right.
And those
Human
other
rights.
things, yeah, you can work for those, but are they really important? Are you going to starve to death if that gay couple gets their cake? No.
Right. Right.
But guess what? You will starve to death if you elect that congressman that doesn't give a damn and has never given a damn about you. Because guess
Right.
what? It is like McConnell is a living friggin' proof. Those
Living.
people are starving to death in Kentucky. They don't have jobs. They don't have a hope. And what they keep electing the turtle.
Right.
So something's got to be wrong there. And that's what I mean. If you got somebody, a progressive, not Republican, not Democrat, a progressive, going in there and saying, you guys are starving.
Right.
I don't really care what you do in your bedrooms, and I don't care what you do in your churches, but I care that you're starving.
Kat, I'm going to interrupt you for that because Kentucky did have a progressive Democrat to
thinking
ran.
that.
And somehow the Democratic Party said, okay, we're going to support a lady that says she's more Trump. Or what was her exact
She
quote?
was a Trump. She was a Trump Democrat.
Yeah, that was it. I'm like, really?
Oxymoron completely.
Yes. Yes.
Really?
But then again, Trump used to be a Democrat. So wait a minute. I don't know.
But that's what I mean. The party's really, this is the delusion that they've created with this circus is, let's be honest, when Democrats and Republicans at the end of the evening, they're all going to the same bar together to have their drinks.
Yes.
They're all getting together and being all friendly. Meanwhile, people are starving on the streets. We have homeless cities in North America. Homeless cities. That's pretty sad.
And yet we have vacant buildings just sitting there. You think, gee, if we could just repurpose that building, put the homeless people in them, maybe we wouldn't have homeless. I don't know.
You guys, I was coming
how
back.
Many churches are sitting there empty from Monday to Friday with nobody doing it, and then the volume. But again, there's another money trough. Here, we'll let them participate in elections, but we'll still keep them tax free.
Yeah, Talisha wanted to say something.
Yeah, sorry guys. I was coming back from Georgia, right? I live in DC, so we got to go through South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, right? Land upon land, trees, open space, just sitting there, unoccupied. No, it wasn't somebody's farm with extra land. It was just wide open space. And I'm telling my husband, there is no reason in this day and age, because we literally just saw a homeless guy sitting outside the convenience store, that somebody should be without a home when we have all this open space. And they have these pods that you can set up, like right on the spot, like boom. And you can, right there, instant housing. And so we don't do this stuff, and I don't mean the collective we, I mean the powers that be we don't because we don't want to. And just like Kat said, keeping people so scared to rise up and quit their jobs or stand up on the job because they're so scared that they'll never I mean, I'm guilty. I don't even want to say guilty. I am a victim of that mentality because me and my husband, even though we make really good income, we have 2-person income debt. I'm scared to death to walk off my job to make a point because I don't want my family to suffer. And we're a family of 5. And in DC, a family of 5 has to make $29,000 a year to get any kind of assistance. And how on earth can a family of 5 sustain themselves making 20,000 anything a year?
Well, your family of 5, at least you have an alternate income. I think me and Mickey, we're in the same boat. It's just we are in a household of 1.
Yes.
So every bill that comes in the house got my name on it.
I just got a raise in my Social Security. My Social Security went up, so naturally they cut SSI in half.
Jesus.
Now getting great $903 a month.
In New York City.
No, I'm not.
Or in New York, which is a high cost of living.
No, not for me. I'm in the boonies.
Okay.
Yeah, but $903 a month is nothing.
It's hard to
No,
sustain.
you can't survive on $903 a month in the US or Canada. You have to start making choices.
I can only because I chose a way of life 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I chose where to live. I chose my way of life. I live very green. People laugh at that, but as you learn ways of living green, you learn you're saving more and more money each time,
Yep.
which happens to be a side effect. But I have my own home. It's paid for. My taxes are low because I'm in the boonies. So I
Yeah.
can live on 903 a month and save a little, not in the winter because of heat, but
Right.
in the spring, summer, and fall, I can put money away. Do you know how lucky I am? I am so much luckier than millions of others. How
Yeah.
many
Because
people?
of a decision you made 40
There's a
years
decision.
ago that isn't available to people to make now,
Exactly.
really.
Exactly.
Exactly, because I think of like myself, like I said, every bill that comes in the house has got my name on it, and I better pay it on the first. Because if I don't, that's it. And you think about the insult of a $1,400 or $2,000 one-time payment.
Mm.
That's it. It's an insult. And you know, I used to be
$4.97 a day, I think it worked out.
Yeah.
to.
and I was thinking about something that I didn't even realize when Andrew Yang was running for president and he came out with the universal base income. Oh, I was against it. You couldn't, I mean, I was just like, you're just telling people to not work to get money. And then I realized, you know, it took COVID-19 to make me realize, oh, now I know what he's talking about. Because the cost of, we're not talking about giving people enough money where they won't work. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure that people aren't living on the street. We're talking about, you know, not just building shelters, but building like, I don't know, an apartment building out of a Walmart store that purposely went into a poor neighborhood and did decide to leave 2 years later.
Right.
We're talking about, you know, that universal base income isn't to support a lack of jobs, is to help people who actually do have jobs, because
It's
we're
not enough.
working to work. Yeah, we're not making enough. I don't think that I make enough right now. I make more than 29,000, but it's just me. And for the
Right.
government to say a family of 5, that to me is ridiculous.
Yes.
It's
And
just,
then
and I couldn't make it off of that.
every test they have done regarding universal basic income
Yep.
has shown a positive result,
Yep.
even to the point where it reduced addiction, it reduced violence. When they brought, every time that they have done a little test where they've gone into a community, they did one in Ontario, they're doing one in BC now. Ford, our conservative jerk back east, canceled the one in Ontario. But every time they have done it, everybody says, oh, well, keep people not working. No, what universal income did is gave them a place to have a shelter over their head. It gave them the ability to have a shower, go and apply for a job, or just not feel like life is kicking them in the face. And every single one, the mental health of the people benefited, the actual community benefited. There is never,
Yep.
all of the results thus far on UBI have shown positive results. Same as like defunding the police and restructuring the money back.
Right.
You know, we took, in the last 40 years, we have destroyed slowly almost all of our social nets. We closed down our mental health facilities in Canada. And what happened? I've got the graphs, actually, I've got to find them, is we closed down our mental health facilities in Canada. And we started doing that in the 70s, and we came up with a lot of great reasons and a lot of bleeding heart reasons. But the point of the fact is, we took them all down, and then you watched the homeless number, right,
Absolutely.
in direct proportion to the mental health facilities getting closed.
Let me
And,
ask you guys a
we're
quick
putting
question.
them into the community. They're better in the health. Really? So now we have psych patients, people that need assistance on the streets, and guess who gets to deal with them? The police.
Right.
They aren't
And they're not
equipped.
trained.
They
Right.
aren't educated. And the thing is, and somebody said something else they were going to do in BC. I can't remember. And as hard as I have time with the police, I went, yeah, they just need another job layered onto them. Oh yeah,
Right.
we'll give them that to do. They're
Right.
already failing at policing. They're
Right.
already failing at, protect and serve, but we'll just add another layer. How about we look at why we have to do these things?
Yep.
Why, think about it as a policeman. And when you're looking, and that's the thing is, it's set up very well, because as you increased the homeless number, I know myself, and I saw the numbers increasing when I was a single mom with the 2 girls, right? Because I had there was no income for a
Right.
time when I first had the girls. Okay. Looking at the homeless people terrified me. All I could think of is I've got to get to work. And I would have been willing to take anything, especially when I found out that after 7 years, I no longer had a license, right? I would have to requalify and go back to uni for 2 years to requalify. And it makes you willing to do anything because you don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
You don't want to be living in a car. And I have friends that, with their kids had to go in a car. Well, you try and do that in Winnipeg. It's not in the middle of
Freezing.
winter. You'll be damn lucky if you don't die of asphyxiation trying to
Right.
keep your, living in a car.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Yeah.
So with the UBI, the one issue I had, especially a lot of times it was brought up here in the US, I don't know about Canada, so Kat, you might be able to tell us. What about the landlords? What's stopping them from jacking up the rent so that
Yeah.
your UBI is going right into their pocket?
Here's my answer to that.
Well, this is where you have rent ceilings.
Yeah.
You
rent
have to- and you really do. Like, these are components where, like,
Now, is that
what
something you guys had to
what you
implement?
guys are seeing now?
Is that something you guys had to implement or you already had it?
What, rent ceilings?
Yes.
Oh, every city's different.
Okay,
Every
because we do
city's
have rent
different.
control some places, but
Yeah, some
not
places.
nowhere
exactly
near
the same here.
Yeah, but Talisha,
Okay.
can I answer your question?
enough. Please.
They're already raising the rent.
True.
Yeah.
You don't have any UBI, period. I mean,
True.
my rent has gone up. Let's see, I've been in this place 3 years. Every single year, my rent increases. And it's not
True.
$5 or $2 or $1.25. It's
Right.
$25, $50, $75.
Mhm.
They're going up anyway. That
Right.
same argument I've heard people say, well, $1,000 extra a month really, and I think that's what Yang was talking. I forget what.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
Like
I think it was.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's not going to make too much difference to me, but
Right.
that's going to make a world of difference to a mother that and her child are sleeping in a car.
True.
That's gonna make-
Definitely.
And if you get those rent controls just across the board from Alaska to Maine,
Right.
and not just in New York City, but
Right.
in actual cities in the US where they can't raise rent unless they prove that there's a reason to,
Yep.
Right.
that could combat a lot of that. Because
Because
Absolutely.
one of the things that you guys, I think, has to be looked at, and realistically, and this is the part that's terrifying me, is as bad as everything is now, what's going to happen when that check comes through and they start lifting the moratoriums,
Yes.
when the
You're gonna have
pandemic
to-
ends, the debt that is going to be, how many people are going to owe thousands and thousands of dollars in
and
rent?
again, that gets
Thousands
back
and
to-
thousands of dollars in credit cards. And the thing is, for all of the little, we'll let it go for the next few months.
Right.
And we're all been there. We're all queens. We know what happens is if debt keeps going, and what's happening with the interest? Is interest being
Oh my
charged
God.
on all these
Yes,
debts
it
and these
absolutely
rents?
is.
So,
Yes.
okay, so now we're going through to September. Everybody's getting vaccinated. The pandemic's winding down. Those debt collectors are going to come calling. What's going
Exactly.
to happen then?
They're going to tear up your credit. They're going to put you on the street, and you're not going to be able to do anything.
and that's
And
why-
where is the divisiveness going to happen then? They've already divided everybody. Now they've literally. So what's going to happen?
and
if
I think, and not to interrupt you, but I think that's why we need to collaborate,
Mhm.
not just the four of us, but we need to collaborate with progressive groups or to say, hey, Joe, we don't need just first of all, stop changing 2,000 to 1,400.
Right.
let's stop that mess here and right now. We
Right.
need a monthly. Well, we need two things. One, we need to retro back all the way to March, and
Yes.
every month from March to now, we need to. Every
Yep.
American should be getting $2,000 per week for March to now, and then going forward, another $2,000 a week. I figured I figure the government owes me at least $16,000. At least. At
least.
least.
And the thing is that when you look at it, and there's somebody, oh well, that's ridiculous. But when you look at it, what is the average debt that people who haven't been getting an income
Right.
have been having to maintain? And let's be honest, okay, Tracy, you were able to have a job, but what would happen in the next couple months if you got sick?
Exactly.
If you had that $16,000, your butt would be covered.
Right.
It's not the point of, oh, I got all this money. It's a point of having your butt covered when it's needed to be covered. And the thing is, I see the situation in the US getting worse in 6
yeah.
months, because I see the debt collectors coming, and I
Yes.
see people, and it's gonna get really ugly because
Long before
remember all
COVID
those
hit.
middle class who've been running those tabs.
Mickey wanted to say something, then I'm going to jump in with my point.
Yeah, sorry.
Long before COVID hit, for years, most Americans could not afford a $400
Yes.
emergency.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So now it's a year into the emergency. And where are you sitting? Because I'm going to tell you, like, as bad as it is now, you're going to have a lot of people of middle class that are now going to be looking at $30,000 credit card bills because they've been trying to maintain at home.
Supplement.
And even the ones that have their jobs, well, they're getting takeaway. They aren't going to the stores
Mhm.
and different things. Like, these debts have been running up, and they're going to come due. And there's not going to be the governments aren't going to push back because they're going to say, well, everybody's back to work now, so everybody has to pay everything.
Yeah, it's all good now, and that's another thing that I'm glad we're having this discussion, because there's two things that are happening. One, a lot of landlords are they're just evicting people anyway,
Yes.
or
Yep.
or what they're doing is, if my rent per se, and I'm just going low end, if it's $500 a month and they say, okay, we'll let it slide, they're just adding it to the back end.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
that debt is you still owe that. It's not like they're forgiving that debt.
Exactly.
And so instead of a rent moratorium, we need to be talking about rent elimination until this pandemic is
Yes.
over. We need this moratorium crap is letting a whole lot of these apartment buildings, because I don't live in a house. Again, I'm trying to become a homeowner, so I don't have to deal with that. But they're putting it at the end, and they're still saying, okay, you need to make this payment.
Right.
And I'm not saying that people should never pay rent. That's not what I'm advocating. But at least in a time like a pandemic, we need to be telling our legislators, hey, cut this crap out about a rent moratorium. No,
Right.
we need rent elimination until we know that we're out of this pandemic, period. That's what.
But
the
if you
fact
don't
that
want
they
to
were
create
able
a
to-
snowball, then what you
Right.
should do is have money going into the families and the people so they can pay the rent. This way,
Right.
we don't have a
Exactly.
snowball effect with the landlords being not able to pay their mortgage payments, their insurances, and that's the thing is, in the big pushback. Well, so the truth is, give the money to the base, i.e., the people, and then I can pay my rent. I
Right.
can pay for this. And this way, the landlord's still getting his money. Like, a moratorium was good while they were working on getting dollars out to the people. A
Right.
moratorium, when they wait 9 months to give anybody money, just accumulated what? If you have $500 a month rent, $4,500 worth of debt.
At least.
Really? So pay it now.
And
You
then the fact that they sank $3 trillion into that freaking stock market for it to disappear like dust.
Yes.
I never want to hear out of their mouth ever again that we can't afford, or oh God, the deficit, or oh, the debt. I don't want to hear it, because you sank $3 trillion in a matter of days into the stock market, and we have nothing to show for it. But guess what's booming right now? The stock market. Guess who's in bread lines? Main Street. So I don't want to hear that we can't afford it. One of the most, if not the most, richest countries on the planet. There should never be folks trying to figure out, am I going to pay rent? Am I going to feed my family? There should never be breadlines, and there should not be, like you guys said, months upon months upon months of backed up rent that no one's going to be able to afford when this fake moratorium is over. Government needs to pay off those debts, cancel it completely for the freaking corporations. But if it's like a single landlord just doing the best they can, you know, those small landlords, they need to get their money. But those corporations, these banks that own these things and they've got their millions early on, they need to close their hand and walk away. And this is mortgages, this is rent, this is all that. It needs to go away.
Exactly. And that's why I think I was calling for a rent elimination, because you have a whole lot of people, and I don't know if you guys are homeowners. Well, you guys are homeowners. I'm not.
I'm not. I live on base.
You're not? Okay.
I live on base.
But you have a lot of mortgage companies doing just what I described what landlords are doing. They're taking the rent and saying, okay, we'll put it on the back end. They still want their money. And I'm not talking about a little landlord that owns maybe one or two properties. I'm talking about corporations that own several apartment buildings.
Right.
And the thing is, what you've got to realize too, is not only are they looking at that money at the end that they're going to be getting, because they're going to be suing for these debts.
Of course.
You're going to have a bunch of developers looking at those properties that had rent control or whatever. And like LA right now, I would be terrified to be in LA right now, because I can tell you those developers, probably similar to New York, are going, those people haven't been able to get rent off their tenants. That property is going to be coming up. And so all of a sudden, all those low income housing and all those fixed are going to be sold off. And the developers are going to be scooping into, they would be fools not to.
The Steve Mnuchin effect.
That's
exactly. It's exactly. And that's what they're going to do. It's the same as what's going to happen with all those homes when people are getting their mortgages foreclosed. No bank's going to push for a foreclosure this year.
Right.
No, because it doesn't make sense.
It's going to be coming into 2021. The letters, the legal letters are going to start to be filed out by everyone.
That's the thing that makes me so mad about this new incoming. And I know they've only been in office less than a week. But how are you patting yourself on the back for a one-time payment when common sense tells you that people, I don't know about them. I know my bills come every single month.
Right.
I have to take insulin every single day. I have to
got sirens.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they're patting themselves on the back like, yeah, we're gonna do a one-time payment. Shut up.
Can they not see that every decent country around the world is paying a monthly stipend?
I don't think they care.
And we're getting it. We're getting federal and provincial dollars. In Canada, they were getting, like the CERB, they get the regular payment, and then the ones who lost a job, they're getting the unemployment payment. And then if you were on disability before Christmas, they gave us everyone on disability, federal disability, got a $600 payment. And then everyone in BC under $150,000. Every family under $150,000 was getting $1,000 check now.
Okay,
and that's on top of, that's British Columbia. That's that's why I asked at the beginning if any of the states were giving any money, because we have the provinces giving us money as well as the federal government.
But you're not talking about a one-time payment, I'm assuming. You're talking about a monthly.
Yeah. These the federal ones are monthly, and the British, like the premier. And the ones for the provinces, though, they've been giving a couple stipends, and then last month 3 weeks ago, it's anybody under $150,000, there's $1,000. Any family that's under $150,000.
And this is per month. I want to make sure.
That's just a one-time payment, but you're getting that on top of your federal payments every month. Because you're getting your unemployment and your CERB here in Canada, and now you're getting.
Every other country is doing it. They're giving.
And we have healthcare.
Free stipend. Every other country can afford it. We can't.
We can't. And
You can afford it. That's the part that
we can. but
bugs
I'm
my
just
ass.
like,
Like Talisha said, how much to Wall Street? 3 trillion?
3 trillion.
That looks like that would pay for a couple $1,000s a month payments for quite a while.
Yes.
And I guess that's what really infuriates me, because I'm like, you literally have politicians patting themselves on the back for a one-time pay. It's one time.
Pelosi says 600 was adequate. What did she say? She was like, we
She
wanted
said,
more,
oh, she didn't wanna
but
give it to
She
600.
buy a door on her Sub-Zero, the wench.
Don't say what you want to say, but I'm just saying that I want to do so much because there's so many battles to fight. But I'm just like, people, we've got to take to the streets and just demand. I'm saying even more than $2,000. I'm saying $2,500 every single week. I don't want to hear anything less than that, because I know it takes more than that to live.
I doubt we'll get weekly, but it does need to spread. Like, we need to reverberate this conversation over and over until everybody's like, why are we just still sitting still? Like, everybody's hair should be on fire. And if nothing else, a monthly stipend. I doubt we'll get weekly, but a monthly stipend that says, you owe us. This is our money. Why are we begging you for our money?
This is ours. This is our taxpayer dollars that we pay for I don't know what, because apparently the only thing they care about is military spending, which I think is outrageous. And again, who are we at war with? But that's a whole discussion for a whole another thing. But
Military and Wall Street.
We got so many battles to fight, but I think this one is the one that I'm ready to fight this one, because I'm like, people, stop asking for things that are already yours.
Right.
Stop settling for when a politician says, if I get elected, you'll get a $2,000 guarantee check, and you're letting him get away with $1,400. You need to stop, and you need to get on that phone, and you need to say, hey, Joe or Kamala or whoever you are, I want a $2,500 check, and I want it now, and I want it every month, and I want you to go back all those months where you didn't give me anything and catch up. Thank you.
Yep. And that's the thing is we all need to be doing that. We need to be pushing back aggressively hard. And I think this is where I said is we got a country to save. We've got a world to save. Exactly. We've got climate crisis. We've got a situation financially. I don't give a damn of what Wall Street's doing. I don't care about any of the dot-coms and all of that thing. I care about whether my neighbor can put a meal on her table to feed her family or his family. I care about a roof over their heads so somebody's not living in a thing. And the thing is, guess what? It's my money. I pay taxes, and this is how I want it spent. And if you aren't going to spend it the way I want it spent, then you need to go. And that's what we need to really start doing. And I think this is where the progressive movement has to stop. Just, you know what? You've been wanting to divide us as human beings from the get-go because you want us and them. Guess what? There is a us and them. It's the 1% and the rest of us. So guess what? That's where I'm putting the line, is right there, is the haves and the have-nots. And I guess I'm on the side of the have-nots, and we're going to be making sure that we all have.
And that is a great place to end this fantastic, enlightening discussion. I'm going to ask you guys to stay on just a little bit extra with me here, but for the audience, remember to please like, share, subscribe. Make sure that the Progressive Queens goes viral. Follow us on our website. All the descriptions are in the comment section. And please, I don't want to beg, but I will if I have to, support us on Patreon. We need funds to make sure this show goes where it needs to go. We're having great discussions, but of course, with that comes great responsibility. So just follow all the links, and we'll see you all next week. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Said we was forever, I lied to you. Said I would be there.